Hey, everybody. Boy, do we have a treat today for you. We have an amazing guest, Shelley Palmer, CEO of the Palmer Group, tech futurist, visionary, content creator, way ahead of the curve on so many topics. I've lost count. Shelley, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Really excited for this chat. How do you describe your body of work these days and yourself?
All AI all the time, or AI everywhere all at once. I guess that's the everyone believes AI was invented on November 30th, 2022, and that's been very good for me and my whole company.
Absolutely. Well, let's start there. What's gotten most attention from you right now in the world of AI? What's your opinion? What's real? What's noise? What's somewhere in between?
It's interesting. In the last roughly 4 to 6 months, everything is sort of become operationalized. 23, it was new. Everybody wanted to know what it was. In 24, people were doing tests of every possible kind. But over the last 4 to 6 months, mostly 2025, what we've seen is a giant concentration on AI or ML operations and a lot of attention paid to corporate governance where um, there's accountability and there's also audit trail, like all the things you do to operationalize across an enterprise. That's become a full focus. And I think what caused that, really, Evan, was early in the year, you'd go to a leadership meeting, to a leadership team meeting, and everyone would still be where they were, and the CEO would say, "Hey, folks, let's find a way to say yes." So all of a sudden, the general counsel is like, "Oh, well, I guess we," and the risk compliance people are like, "Well, maybe," and then SecOps would turn around and go, "Okay." So now that you've got, the security people out of your face and the legal people out of your face, mostly out of your face, and risk and compliance understanding this has got its own set of risks, but they're pretty well understood now. At least the known knowns are understood. Everybody's ready to operationalize. Also, to be fair, some of our big clients, there were 3, 4, 500 AI projects going on anyway. They were just
Mm,
all separate and out of control. So it sort of reminded you of the early days of the World Wide Web, where people were just, or the early days of mobile, where people were just doing everything on their own, and there was no, unified, centralized, approved way to do things. Probably the most analogous is that wonderful 2002 Jeff Bezos memo for Amazon that said, "Folks, we're not going to be doing any internal facing APIs anymore, right? You can't make an external facing API and put a number on it and sell it. Don't do it." And
mhm.
that that's sort of what happened in AI. Everybody's turning around going, "Why do we have 16 of the same thing in 12 different departments? Like, let's figure out a way to make this more efficient." So I think that's what's happening now. And then, to be fair, the most promiscuous letters in the world are AI, so they don't mean anything. But even more promiscuous as a term is agents and agentic tools. That's
Mm.
everybody's gone out of their minds, talking about agents as if they know what they mean.
Well, let's talk about that. What do you advise leaders to do to better prepare for this next wave? What should they be doing, reading, experimenting with to get ready?
So there are no holy books. There's no secret words. Everything is online that you'd ever want to do. And honestly, the best advice I can give everybody who's not in this right now is get a paid version of whatever you like, paid version of ChatGPT, paid version of Anthropic's Claude, paid version of Google Gemini, something paid, because you need the extra context window tokens. You need the volume of tokens to be high enough so that the tools you're using are meaningful. But if you're in OpenAI's world or Anthropic's world or Google's world, or all three preferably, and you don't know precisely or exactly how to do something, you can ask the model for instructions and it will teach you. We're at a time now where the models themselves will teach you more about the models than you could learn by yourself. Take a personal project, take something you want to do. One of my favorite things to do with my senior leaders is to have them over a weekend create either an app or build an agent, or a small little agentic system. The definition for agent and agentic in this conversation is: an agent is a thing that does a thing. It reads email, it searches the web, it goes and finds the weather, it goes and buys an airline ticket. And an agentic system is a group of agents that you've orchestrated together to accomplish a goal. So imagine the delight and horror of a full leadership team when a CEO who's non-technical comes in on a Monday morning to the meeting and goes, "Hey, I made this agent over the weekend and it does this," or "I made this agentic system over the weekend and it does that," or "I built this app because I vibe coded it." It literally the shock and awe is fantastic. So it gets everybody a little bit motivated that, first of all, anyone can do it, because most CEOs, unless they're tech company CEOs or startup founders, are not tech people. So Jensen Huang has this wonderful quote, English is the new programming language, and it's basically true. You want to get into this, the only way to do it is to start, and there's just no barrier and there's no excuse. It's just how much you want to work. You want to learn all night, learn all day, work half a day, learn half a day, whatever your capacity is. There's an unending amount of knowledge available to you on this subject, and none of it is hidden, none of it at all.
And many of us have been experimenting and are excited about generative AI, including those large enterprises. And lots of mistakes are being made in this experimentation, lots of deployments, but lots of trial and error. What are the biggest mistakes do you think companies, organizations are making right now?
Well, there are a couple. One, counterintuitively, older people do better than younger people with these tools. And I now know why. It's been 2.5 years of training workforces at the Palmer Group at big companies. And I would have expected, young people in their 20s and 30s to be great at this, and older people in their 40s and 50s to sort of be the more Luddite of the groups. But it turns out it's exactly the other way. And it's not what I thought. The older workers, or the wizened warriors, as I like to describe them, they know exactly what questions to ask, exactly what order to ask them in, and they have a very good idea of what the output they're looking for is supposed to look like. And so they use these tools as skills amplifiers and productivity enhancers. And in that capacity, all of these tools, whether they are large language models or reasoning engines or some combination of both, excel. They're spectacularly good at executing what you're asking them to execute if you ask appropriately and you know the output and can check it. The younger workers are expecting to press a button and have their work done for them, and that does not work out. So you can't expect these tools to do anything of value without being checked. They're all at first-year intern level. It's not necessarily true with certain kinds of math and certain kinds of coding where there's an objective right or wrong. There's a right answer and a wrong answer, and everyone knows what that's going to be. If you do 2 + 2 and it equals 9, you pretty much know that's not correct, and it's never correct under any circumstances. But when you're asking it to write a story or write some marketing copy or write something that's more subjective, it is a subjective answer. Right. So there you need some baseline. One of my favorite ways to think about it is if you ask a large language model, what was the impact of the Weimar Republic on the advent of World War II? You're going to get a very specific answer. That's quite scholarly, and it's going to take into consideration the history of European thought, et cetera, et cetera. If you say, what did Germany do in World War II? You're going to get it's the same exact question. You're going to get a completely different answer. You're going to get the answer that a high school student would get when they're writing a book report about World War II versus, a philosophical, deeply thought through answer to a question about how the Weimar Republic, evolved into Germany, evolved into the Third Reich. And it's just a different line of a different way to question. Now, the model has read everything on that subject ever published on the World Wide Web or available on the World Wide Web. You haven't. So when you ask it a question that makes it go pattern match in a much different way than it would pattern match, with a different phrasing of the question, your subject matter expertise really matters. And the biggest mistake companies make is that they don't train people to ask questions properly, or they let people ask questions improperly and allow them to not take full responsibility or for the answers. And then they start blaming the tools rather than the user of the tools. Like, you ask the wrong question, you're going to get the wrong answer. You ask the question improperly, you're going to get an improper answer. So one of the best ways to avoid this mistake, because it's actionable, is at the end of every prompt, you ask something like, or you say something like, please ask me clarifying questions until you're 95% sure you can accomplish the task I've given you.
Wow. Very cool.
Now, if you ask that at the end of every prompt, any model, doesn't matter which one it is going to play 20 questions with you until it fully understands what it is it's supposed to pattern match. And then it will give you a better answer. Now, there's other ways to get ready for that. You can give a context profile to the model. You can use a meta prompt. Teach me how to ask you this question. I mean, you can put in a pre-prompt. You're acting as, Evan, awesome, an amazing podcast host who is, going to have to go do the following. And you can do a pre-prompt that tells the model what it's acting as, which would be very helpful. And then you can use meta prompting the way that OpenAI describes meta prompting, which is you ask the model to help you write the prompt. And even then you say, ask me clarifying questions till you're 95% sure you're going to accomplish the task I've given you, so that you have the best chance as a user of getting the best answer out of the model. That is the biggest mistake corporations make. They don't train people to get the most out of these models. And they just expect everybody to, interact with the models and hope for the best. And I think that's a really bad way to do this. And then the second biggest mistake every company makes is they don't give people paid time to practice. And I don't think it's fair of a company to say to someone, I expect you to use this new license for whatever tool it is that I bought for you, or series of licenses. Well, please learn it on your own time, and I'm not going to back off. You got to make all your numbers, you got to do your regular job. Oh, by the way, and add 3 hours a week to your life to figure out how to use this whole tool set I just gave you without training you. I think that's a giant error too. Like, you got to make it, AI Wednesdays or something, and give them a couple hours in the morning and pay them to do it, and make it a contest, and make it gamified, and make it challenging, and use workbook. You just have to get people into this, because otherwise they're pretty reluctant to take time out of their day. No one wants to slow down to speed up when they're being fiscally governed to just get their numbers out the door. And I see that as a giant mistake, and people do it all the time, and it's not good. Not good.
Wow. Best advice of the year, I think I've heard. That is fantastic. Thanks for the tip as well. And there is a tech world outside of AI and Gen AI, and you were way ahead of the curve when it came to the NFT trend, which is still around, the metaverse, Web3, which has so much promise. What still excites you about some of these trends that, emerging technology that's still emerging?
So I think I'm most interested not in the technology. I'm most interested in the cultural and behavioral changes that the full range of tech has had on us. We're in, I guess, what will be thought of as the golden era of handsets, right? Everybody's holding a quad core 10 radio computer in their pocket, with all day battery life, and everyone's leading their life on this tool set. And we're seeing the emergence of answer engines as opposed to search engines, where we get an emotionally satisfying answer, true or false, good or bad, right or wrong. We're getting an answer from these different platforms, and it's changing the way we behave, and it's changing the way commerce is done. It's changing the nature of what publishing is. It's about to change what entertainment means to all of us. So this sociological change, driven by this sort of interesting atom smashing of all these technologies together, whether blockchain survives or we end up with some kind of AR, VR, XR, or MR, some kind of handset replacement that's going to go on my head somehow. The age of a website and a search engine and 10 blue links is quickly coming to an end. And this is like a massive behavior change in the way that we do everything. Like, everything about what we do for the last 20 years has been leading us to the point where you search something, somebody makes a little money on the click. There's a toll booth. There's header bidding. There's there's this war of the data elite that we have been all part of. We've all sort of been dutiful soldiers in this war of the data elite. We create the data, they mine it, and they do crazy stuff with it. And we're just we're the tail wagging the dog, if you will. That's all about to change. And so that fascinates me. And it's when you add the speed with which AI is improving, and now, not to be Debbie Downer, the complete obvious militarization of AI, what's going to happen with drone warfare, where we're going to be with cyber warfare in the world of AI. The Pentagon just dropped another huge contract on Palantir. You got a Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carrier. They're like $1 jillion each. You can't take them down with any conventional weapon. There's no way you sink that ship with a conventional weapon, but you send $50,500 drones at that thing, and it doesn't have a defensive mechanism that can deal with it. So what's a battle group in that world? You put 100,000 $75 Stinger drones in the air. No one on the battlefield survives. It doesn't matter where you are. You're under surveillance the whole time you're in the battlefield. So that no one knows how to do that. This is the equivalent of the Springfield rifle shoot with a conical barrel, literally the first rifled barrel, which caused people in the Civil War to be basically either dead or amputees. They could kill a man a mile away. You couldn't see the guy. You could kill him. It's oh my God. This is next level warfare. It took till World War I to realize you have to dig a trench and put a helmet on. From 1865 to 1915 to figure out you're going to have to dig a trench and get underneath the bullet. The strategy and the tactics didn't match in any way. We're there. We're back. This is the next level of strategy, tactics, and all of this is militarized. And we're sharing the planet with intelligence completely decoupled from consciousness for the first time in history. So that's making me sit up at night and think about stuff. It's not so much the technology by itself, it's its impact on our behaviors and likely behaviors going forward. How are we going to spend our day in this world? And it's quaint to think about shopping and e-commerce and publishing and media and entertainment, but this goes everywhere. The average person, and I consider myself an average human being, probably didn't sit up at night and think about how cell phones and warfare were somehow entangled. I have a cell phone. I have a smartphone. 15 years ago, maybe a little more than 15 years ago, I was asked by my friends at the Pentagon to do some pro bono work to look over the social media strategy of the military. Why? Because forward deployed troops were texting each other or posting on Twitter or Facebook, and the enemy was deriving their location, and people were dying because of just no one understanding that this was a radio. And radios can be triangulated, and the posts were, you take a picture of somebody back then or something, and the landmark in the background, you didn't need AI to understand if you were a local. Oh, I know where they are. And you were giving up a forward location because you were taking a selfie. It's that wasn't something the average person ever thought about. The military thought about it because they were in it, but I don't know one person 15 years ago who was thinking that way.
You maybe have to a few science fiction writers, but we've definitely this is some weird mix of science fiction and reality.
But that's where we are today.
Yeah.
That's where we are, man. We are in a place where science fiction and science fact, the only thing that science fiction that's left, to use that analogy, would be faster than light travel and teleportation from Star Trek. Anything else isn't science fiction anymore.
Yeah, and we have quantum teleportation, so that's a whole nother story.
You're right, but all I'm saying is that you and I aren't, Mr. Scott's not beaming us up, and you and I are not traveling faster than light. But other than that, tell me something that's sci-fi that you can't do. You have telekinesis, right? I mean, you can ask Alexa to do anything you want it to do. You can, you play music. We are in a different place now. There is no real science fiction. You can build a story that's a nice story, but it's not like you're going to invent something that isn't possible. We're going to have humanoid robots in 15 minutes, metaphorically, and they're going to be good. And you're going to want one. I know my wife's going to want 3, one for the laundry, one to clean the kitchen and do the dishwasher. It's like, why wouldn't you want that? I mean, this is the world we're coming to. So those technologies have me up at night. I don't know if they excite me, but they certainly have me up at night.
They certainly do. And back to terra firma here, we're creating content. I guess I call myself a content creator. You do that and much more. But is this the best of times for content creators or the worst of times? It seems like all this opportunity, and yet maybe 2% of content creators are accruing 98% of the value, at least monetization wise. What's the future for people like us online and in the media?
So it's such a great question, and I don't know that I have the best answer or an answer that you're going to like. I don't think it's any different today than it's ever been.
Wow.
I think the triangle is really steep. At the top is the Mr. Beasts of the world. And saying Mr. Beasts of the world is like saying Tiger Woods of the world or Michael Jackson's of the world. They're those guys. Now we go down 75 floors to the next group of people who are amazing, and any one of them would be amazing. You always think about Michael Jackson. His second album did, I think, 17 million sold, whereas the first album was 23 million sold, and the one that sold 17 million was considered a failure. It's like there were only like 4 other artists in the history of the world that came close to 17 million albums sold, but his 17 million album, because he'd hit 23 million the first time, was a failure. It's like, gee, Tiger won, I forget which Masters it was, by 12 strokes, and the next time he only won by 8 strokes. He's slipping. Like, are you guys kidding me? The top of this pyramid has been the top of this pyramid for 150,000 years of recorded history. I actually think what's beautiful about today, truly beautiful, is that it doesn't matter who you are. You have the opportunity. It's the biggest meritocracy ever. You can get to YouTube. You can upload to YouTube. You could be Mr. Beast. It's just on you. And nothing else. Well, he has more money. He can do this. He can do that. You have generative AI. Well, he has this. He has that. You have your brains. He has his brains. Can you think as well as he can think? Can you tell a story as well as he can tell it? Are you as dedicated to getting an audience as he is? Because if you are, you can beat him. And if you're not, you can bitch about it. You're not going to beat him. Now, you don't need his business model, which is monetization on YouTube. My business model has nothing to do with the number of views. I could care less. I need the right people to watch my videos and read my daily blog. I don't need tonnage. I have Stephen Levitt from Freakonomics, and I think it was his first book, the original Freakonomics book. He talks about the Nigerian Prince letter being the greatest piece of performance marketing in the history of the world. And he explains it, and it's so beautifully explained in that book. He says, you want the hacker who's got to send out 500 million emails in his gym shorts from his house, in his apartment, his mom's basement in Siberia, is looking for the 4 dumbest people on earth who have $10,000 and know what Western Union is. So he writes, it's got typos. It's the most ridiculous story, but not too ridiculous, but pretty ridiculous. I'm a Nigerian prince. I've inherited $100 million, but I need $10,000 for a lawyer because to unlock it, and I'll share all classics.
One of the classics.
I'll share 50 million of it with you if you just wire me $10,000 via Western Union. I mean, it's the most, and it's got typos, and it's got sentence fragments, and it's got punctuation errors, and you ask, well, why? And the answer is that this guy can't take 100 inbounds a day. He needs the 4 dumbest human beings filtered, but they have to have access to 10 grand, and they have to know where Western Union is. It's like the 4 dumbest people that meet that filtered criteria have to hit him, and then he's going to close one of them. And if he closes one out of 500 million, by getting 4 or 5 inbounds, he's hit the lotto. When he improves this letter this much and gets 30 inbounds, he can't get through 30 people in one day. It's one guy in his gym shorts. I write the reverse Nigerian prince letter every day. I'm looking for the 4 smartest human beings on God's green earth who have a problem and know Shelley Palmer is the solution. It's like,
Well,
so
I hope one is listening or watching to
so,
this.
so what I'm
'cause
saying
was
is that's
the best
my
anecdote ever. Yeah.
but that's my business model. So while I do put out a lot of content, I would do a daily newsletter. I've been doing so every day since 1996, 7 days a week. We do news during the week, and I do a thought leadership piece on Sunday, and I do a wrap up on Saturday, and this just goes on and on and on. And I do a bunch of podcasts, and I do a bunch of TV hits, and ungodly number of speaking engagements, which to the consternation of my wife, she now forwards my mail to Terminal 4 at JFK. But my model isn't tonnage. My model is the right people are watching, the right people are listening, the right people are reading. So every content creator can find their own way. But the beautiful thing is nothing stops me. Nothing stops you. Nothing stops any of us. There was a time 25 years ago when the gatekeepers were so strong, unless you got through the Sulzbergers, the Rolfs, the NBCs, the ABCs, CBSs, the 3-letter networks, you were not going to get national distribution. You did not have production tools available to you. Your phone wasn't a 4K camera. 4K hadn't been invented. You couldn't put a bokeh effect on something like, and this is in the lens behind me right now. But this camera can do it computationally. It doesn't need to do it in the lens. So like, we're in a new world, and you as a creator have the best opportunities you've ever had. Now, what does that do for real publishers? And I say that with tongue firmly in cheek. What does it do? What I really mean is traditional publishers. What does it mean for traditional publishers? Nothing good for a traditional publisher, because all of a sudden, every ankle biter is a production company and publisher, right? Of immensely high quality. And do you have a discernible recipe? There's a guy I like. I'm not going to promote him right now because I don't know if he's good, bad, or indifferent, and I don't know what his politics are. I was looking for a barbecue ribs smoker recipe yesterday, and I went first to my normal sources, and then I went to the non-normal sources because I had already seen all of the other recipes, and I was looking for something completely different. And I found it through a search in Google Gemini. I don't know who this guy is. I decided this looks good to me. It makes perfect sense. And it was awesome, to the great applaud of the family. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy who I now subscribe to and follow for a little while, we'll see. It's just a content creator who does, the guy's a backyard barbecue guy, and he like smokes stuff in his backyard. And he's on YouTube, and he's got an Instagram channel, and he's got a TikTok channel. And it's like, he does barbecue. And I was like, okay, I watched a few of his videos. I'm like, looks like he knows what he's doing. Doesn't look like a whole lot more experienced than I am at this. I'm not good at it. I just like to do it. And as you can tell from my boyish figure, I've never seen a barbecued rib I wouldn't eat. So, I was going for it. That's the world we're living in now. And I think this is a uniquely wonderful time for individuals and a uniquely challenging time for the traditional business models.
Yeah, well, that's really a mic drop moment. So I anticipate I'll see you at CES 2026, which I can't believe is a few months away. Now, you have kind of a conference within a conference. I once saw you being followed by a cohort of like 40 people at the show. Will you be there again? Where else can folks meet you outside of CES?
So we do, the best place to meet us is at shelleypalmer.com and subscribe to the newsletter, because that gets you access to our whole world. We do CES. We have a breakfast there called the Innovation Series Breakfast, and we've been doing that every year for a million years. It's invitation only, so you'll learn about that again through the newsletter. We do also tours for big corporations, floor tours to help executives understand. So that's what when you see me being followed by 40 people or 30 people, they're on a floor tour generally. We do breakfasts at Possible Conference and we do them in Cannes as well at big events. And tentpole events. We like to do stuff officially with the sponsors, so with the showrunners. So we do that, and then I'm on Fox 5 every Tuesday morning, more or less, with a thing. Also, the videos are posted. And believe it or not, Evan, I actually can't imagine that I'm saying this out loud. I'm being coerced, tortured, and conscripted into doing a new podcast of my own.
Oh, well, I can't wait to check it out. That's going to be on
Yeah,
top of my playlist.
just it's we have a couple of sponsors that are saying this is the way they want to consume their Shelley Palmer content, and they want me to do it. So I think sometime in Q4 we're going to start. I'm hoping it's just weekly. Uh, hoping it's just weekly. I had been doing them daily for years, and I do, like to track the newsletter. So, that's coming soon. I do have a collection of essays I'm going to put out in the next few weeks on AI, mostly suitable for marketers or people who are in business. Just a collection of the how-to essays, some of the stuff we were talking about at the beginning. How do you do a prompt, and what's a meta prompt, and how do you set your website up to be machine readable, and just the kinds of things that are how-to helpful things that people can be doing to drive their businesses forward. So, but again, shelleypalmer.com is a good place to start, and the newsletter's free. You're welcome to subscribe to it if you're listening, and I hope you will.
I do, and it's a great asset. And thanks for joining. Really appreciate, as always, the insights and the amazing tips. We got tips and tricks and all kinds of things today. That was awesome. And thanks everyone for listening, watching, and sharing the episode. And be sure to check out our new TV show, techimpact.tv, now on Bloomberg and Fox Business. Thanks, Shelley. Thanks.